Yes. Okay. I'm hoping that you can hear us. Rob Moore, I can see that you're on the line. Can you hear us, Rob?
Yes, I can hear you, Commissioner.
Oh, very good. Okay. Thank you. You're coming in loud and clear, that's for sure. You had some people jump out
Thank you.
here. All right, we'll start our meeting this afternoon. Welcome. It's good to have you here in person and online. And as always, we start with a prayer, a reading, or a thought. And you can pick between those, or leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We look to our audience here that's with us. Is there any volunteers for a prayer, reading a thought, or leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? None? Okay. Okay, we got two here arguing over which one. That's great. It's a great argument to have. Yes, who does what? Yes, thank you.
Holy Father, we thank Thee for the blessing of living in a free society and in a great conservative area of the country which reveres Thee and Thy Son and the goodness of life and finds ways to care for the poor. We're thankful for our leaders. We pray for them that they will have wisdom as they sort out the business of this day, and that we might have Thy influence and wisdom to be with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And as you probably noticed, and just an FYI, Commissioner Ainge is not on the line. This morning we received a letter from him, a resignation letter. We wish him, his family, and his future endeavors the very best as he pursues other things that are going on. So just to kind of note that he resigned this morning is when we received that letter. And so we'll be going through a transition process, maybe to kind of give you a heads up of what that looks like. Since we have that, there's 10 days that we have to then send a letter to the party. In this case, it'll be the Republican Party. We're probably intending on having a meeting tomorrow. You'll see a public notification on that so that we can officially send a letter that will go to the party, and then they'll go through their processes to nominate somebody or to pick somebody to take that vacancy position. And then after they do that, they will send it back to us as commissioners. And I would assume that we would just accept it and move forward. But if for some reason it fails and we don't accept it, then it would go to the governor. And the governor would have 10 days, I believe, or 5 or 10 days, 10 days, and it says in the law that he shall accept that nominee that was picked by the party. So that's kind of the process, just to kind of give you a heads up. So there's going to be some time in which we have two commissioners here, and I'll probably in every meeting have to suspend the rules so that I can second all motions. But that'll be a process that we go through as we're working through some of the business that we have for the week. Okay, going to our agenda, a number of items on our agenda, as you can see, and we do have our consent agenda on there published. We will move things from our regular agenda to the consent agenda. In this case, that will mean that both commissioners agree, Commissioner Sakovich and myself, and they'll be approved, ratified, or agreed to. And then those items that we leave on regular agenda, meaning that in this case that we'll pull back or we'll note, we will have discussion and make motions and discuss. And then there'll be a motion and a vote on those. In this case, to pass it will take two. It'll take both of us to pass it. If it's a 1-1, then it just has no action. It just sits. Okay, we'll start off with 1 through 10. Any items on there? I have one. If we could hold all of number 6 for discussion. Any others, Commissioner? Okay. How about if we go 11 through 20? Items on there that we need to,
I think I'd like to perhaps table 13, 14, and 15 for closed session.
okay, 13, 14, and 15,
Yes, they look like, yeah.
okay. We'll table 13, 14, and 15. And then items 21 through 26, any of those need to be held?
I think none of those need to be held. Only to clarify, 17 and 20, those are COVID funds, I think, funded items. Just want to confirm that. I don't know if we need to discuss that, just want to confirm that.
Is that COVID or FEMA?
And 20,
I think 17's FEMA. FEMA, yep,
okay, all of those, okay.
okay,
And
The
that
vaccination
includes- That
clinics.
includes 19 too then, okay.
okay.
So, okay.
And then 27, 28, 29, and 30 are our closed meetings. I know we need 27. Are there any others? Paul, do you know of any others?
No, I don't, but I don't know what closed meeting number 15 might be discussed in.
Oh,
All under, is that number 28 or 29?
Do we know, is that, does number 15 relate to the purchase or the sale of real property? I haven't, does Rob Moore know?
Sorry, Commissioners, I was muted. I apologize. Number 15, if this is the one involving Saratoga Springs, is just a normal pass-through MAG-approved project that is set aside with some of the monies that we have set aside for these type of road projects. It is county funds distributed through the quarter cents.
Yeah.
And so we typically have these on there. The county is the funding source of these. It's on the MAG project list. And it was approved, as I understand it, by Saratoga Springs last night in their city council meeting.
Yeah, that's the,
If you'd like to discuss it further, you can hold it. We can discuss it further if you'd like.
it's on the attachment says it's Foothill, it's known as the Foothill Boulevard Extension. It's an approved project extending Foothill Boulevard.
Correct.
Yeah, from Pony Express to Lariat Boulevard as a two-lane roadway.
would it be better that we maybe hold this one for discussion and then table the other two?
Absolutely, if you want to. Yep.
13 and 14 to table, and then 15 to hold for discussion?
Yeah, I approve that, yeah. Let's table 13, 14, and hold like 15.
Okay, I think that's more appropriate. Let's do that. Okay, we'll hold that one for further discussion. So with that, then, we'll leave it on consent for both commissioners to agree that 27 will be the approved and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting. Discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual at today's date at this location, following the completion of our meeting, and that we will strike items 28, 29, and 30 from our agenda.
Motion to approve 20 as described.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that on consent, so that should take care of it. And then we will, are there any public comments or any comments to the items? Maybe I should go through them just to clarify. Those that we left on regular agenda for discussion and those that we tabled. So number 6 is we left on regular agenda to be discussed and to be possibly voted on. Number 13 and 14, we pulled off of regular agenda and tabled those. Number 15, we have held for discussion. And then number 27, we set that date and time. Everything else, we moved from our regular agenda to our consent agenda, which is agreed to or ratified or approved. Are there any comments to those items that we have consented to? And Alice, if you can look online and see if there's any online as well. No? Okay. Then we will move to our regular agenda now that it's been organized. And number 6 is to approve the property tax actions, including the recommendation letter. And there's a bunch of them on here. And maybe Paul, just for conversation purposes with it. The first grouping that I have is under the paid with bill pay through financial institution payments sent. And that one is highlighted, and then underneath that is to abate or refund. All of these are to be abated or refunded, the penalties and interest. So there's a group of there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 or 14, depending on how you count it. That top group, I don't have any questions on that top group. I think that it's fine to leave that as stated in the document, to leave them with the abatement or refund the penalties.
Yeah, I could agree with that, yes.
Okay. Moving to the next one, we've got, the next one is Patrick Holman, and it says deny the request with a finding that there's no legal or factual basis to show the grant the request. They're alleging that it was mailed on 11/30. The payment was postmarked on December 3rd, and they're looking for a request of $21.24 to be rebated to them. When I go down through these, I see that, and I appreciate, and I want to make sure and say this, there's a certain box, that our staff works in, and they're appropriately stating, within that box, that they necessarily didn't receive it until after that deadline, and so therefore they checked it off as being that. Now, for us as commissioners, we have a little bit more latitude outside of that box. And I maybe just to preface this, it's interesting to me, though, that there are times in which there are others who necessarily don't, that we didn't receive it, but we're requesting or we're saying, let's go ahead and approve it. And so as I look down through these, especially on the penalties and interest, this one being $21.24, I tend to be a little bit more lenient on that, and it looks like there was good faith effort on the individual to make that, and they're alleging that it was received shortly after. I get it. But as I walk down through these, and this is kind of a statement in general because there's a lot of these that kind of apply to it, I'm inclined to approve their request to receive that, that $21.24 back. That's just me, Commissioner.
Do we concur on these as a group as we go through them? Go through each one, or,
I would, since they're all a little different, we probably ought to look at them separately.
okay, okay.
But I said that to start with because
Right.
it will give you a signal of how I'm looking at them for the others as we go.
Okay.
Not that I want to say the same thing over and over and over and over, but
Well, I would concur with your finding on that.
okay. So that's that. Paul, anything on that, or do you want me to continue?
No, I'm fine. My office's recommendations are made on the spreadsheet here, and any deviation you want to make from the recommendation, just note that. And, yeah, then you can make a motion, I suppose, to accept the
General.
recommendation, except for the ones that you've commented on doing
Right.
anything differently. Would probably be the best way to go. Sorry, there's so many in here. There's just a lot of, property taxes were due, and the penalty and interest are hitting, and we're getting the recommendation to you. Normally, you won't have this many in a single agenda item, but
Well, we got a shorter agenda. It
good
seems
time
like.
to
So
spend
it's
some
a
time
good
here.
Yeah. The next one is
Ish.
Pamela Staish. And this one alleges original payment was mailed but not received by the county. She has since paid the taxes. When I look down through these, I look for this one I'm not sure of, just because, to be consistent with the one above, I'd like to, but it's a lot more obvious to me that something might have happened in the mail on that one. On this one here, I don't know if there was more information than just the payment was mailed, but not received by the county. Do you know if there's, I'm trying to get to their justification. Refresh my memory.
It basically said the payment was mailed but not received by the county.
Right.
She just claims that she mailed a check for the remaining balance before the end of November, and noticed that the check never cleared.
But she didn't show us a check or a statement or anything that it didn't clear?
Nope.
With that, I'm kind of inclined to deny this particular one.
And that's, and I
It's
was,
similar to the one above it, but based on what he's presenting here.
yeah, I'm struggling with this one too, just because I don't see anything that gives me thought of a good faith effort without some sort of,
Solid evidence.
okay? So we'll put that as a deny. If that's, I can concur with that. The last one I have is, on this section, is Feng Yang.
Mhm.
Alleges that it was mailed, certified mail on 11/30, and payment was postmarked 12/1. Did we receive that in certified mail?
Yeah, we did receive that. I think I have a copy of the envelope.
Yeah, the difficulty with this one, it says it was postmarked the day after it was due.
Yeah, the postmark date was in December. Yeah, I have a copy of the envelope here, December 1st. And, you know, depending on what time of the day you send it on November 30th, it might get postmarked the next day. You know, if you drop it in one of the blue mailboxes at 11:59 on the November 30th, it's gonna be postmarked the next day. And so just so you know where the recommendations are coming from, if they're postmarked after November, you got a recommendation of denial.
Right. I think there was a good faith effort on this one to be in compliance with it, so I would,
Especially if the certification shows it as November 30th, but even though it was not, but it wasn't postmarked until December 1st.
right,
I see a good faith, but it's supposed to arrive on November 30th is the issue too, which is a Monday.
Well, I think our tax notice says that the postmark date could be November 30th. So even if we don't get it until the 1st or 2nd, I think there's no late penalty for that. But we require a postmark date of November 30th. But
Like a mail-in ballots.
yeah, but the commission does have authority here to make a decision. Either way.
I'm inclined to approve the request on that one.
okay,
It's really close.
well, I agree with that. Let's approve that one. This one with Larry Ballard, he alleges that he left the envelope in a drop box here at the county administration building before the due date, and the payment was not received by the county. I read down through this one as well. That one, the clerk says we pick up the mail every day on that one, and yet this one's, to approve the request. To approve the request that it was, but apparently it was received after the deadline. And so I'm just wondering on this one, Paul, how this one is approved.
Yeah, I think we looked at that one, and here they do provide a check dated November 2nd, a clear check.
Okay,
And, he claims he dropped it in there. He provided a check stub from November 2nd. I'll just tell you that consistency is my goal here when I make these recommendations. So I understand, some are denied, some are approved. We look at these and just try to be consistent and fair. But yeah, so we did recommend approval on that one, mostly because,
If it was put in a Dropbox, was it identified that it was there and we paid it afterwards, later on? If it was put in a Dropbox and the payment was made afterwards, did we find a separate Dropbox envelope?
I don't think we ever found it. Which, I think they made a subsequent payment in
Right.
December.
Yeah, I
It's a
see
different
that, but,
check.
yeah.
Again, it's up to the board what they want to do on this one. You're certainly,
I'm inclined to approve that one based on what you've presented here.
okay. All right, we'll leave that one on approve. And then this Chen as the next one, and it is, this one alleges loss of income due to COVID-19. No supporting evidence or documentation. It was provided. And the recommendation on this one was to deny the request with the finding that there's no legal or factual basis is shown to grant the request. No county error was shown. So,
With that one, I'm inclined to go with council and deny the request for both of those. So these are
Talking
two
about
separate
the-
properties?
yeah, there's two separate. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, Benjamin Holst. This one alleges property tax was made online on 11/27. Later received email stating payment had been returned. Paid again on 12/1. Did not provide any proof of original payment. Attempt to email stating payment had been returned. So my question on this one is, later they received an email stating payment had been returned. I'm not sure what that means. If the payment was made online
Yeah,
and then received an email saying the payment was returned, I don't understand what that communication looked like.
well, Mr. McConnell can explain it better than me, but, he's here. But I think what happens is when you make the payment online, it shows the payment leaving your bank account. But I think he made an error. He must have made an error when he made the payment. And so then it got returned to his bank account because it never made it to the county. Perhaps Carrie can clarify.
Yes, Karen McConnell, Treasurer's Office. So I think the next several will probably fit in the same category. They make the payment, they enter an email address on the payment site, our third-party vendor, and if there's no, for a number of reasons, they've made an error in entering their routing number, or fat-fingered an account number, the payment comes in and looks like it's a good payment until it gets netted out with the Federal Reserve 3 days later and comes back and says, no, there is no account. So we back that out. If they do leave an email address, then the third-party vendor emails them and says the payment wasn't any good.
Yeah,
So that's why
yeah,
I think this whole next page is something very similar to the error was made on their end in the way of input,
right.
but they're not notified until 3 days later.
So, and they subsequently have all paid.
I believe
Yes,
they have.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because when they get the email, a lot of times the link's right there, they just hop right back on and probably pull their checkbook back out and type
Yeah.
in the routing number. And they have to put the account number in twice. So you would like to think if they couldn't get the first entry right, the second one comes up as an error, like, no, I've done something wrong. So they've possibly entered that account number wrong twice, or at least the routing number.
okay. So I'm inclined with those. It looks like a good faith effort was made. Yes, mistakes happen, but we still collected the tax. I think that's the most important thing, is that the tax
Yeah.
was collected.
Yes.
And so these we're talking about $10 or, $20 now. How far does that go? There's
There's a couple of very large ones.
There's
that are on
some
the-
larger ones down here for sure.
Just for clarification, you're inclined to approve the Holst
Yes,
Yes.
request.
yes.
What's your next one after that? Because
Then
I
I've
think
got
Carrie knocked
this-
my papers on the floor, and then
I've got this, can I have properties?
Night properties, yeah.
Nine
Lisa
properties,
Smith.
Lisa Smith,
Mhm.
okay.
that's the next one. Seems like it's in the same category.
Mhm. So,
And
Well, actually, this might be different to me.
initially pay the amount.
she, clerical
Oh,
error,
paid the amount.
made a mistake in what she owed and then made up for the difference.
Oh yeah, looks like they paid their 2019 amount
Mm.
in 2020, and that wasn't quite enough. And so then by the time they made up the difference, they were late.
Yeah,
I'm inclined to approve her request.
I am too. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Lamont?
Want. This is the e-check one. Later received notification. I think consistently we should approve that one as well. Do you agree?
Yeah,
Yeah, so Lamont and Little are kind of the same as the e-check.
yeah. And so's
Yeah, so,
All of these seem to be very similar.
so the little one, are you little?
Yeah, I'm okay for
You're
approving.
with those, okay, let's go to the next one then, Peak. This one alleges missed payment deadline because other property taxes are paid through escrow account, paid entire balance on 12/3. So the amount on this, the 2,941.89, what is that entitled? What is that? Is that payment or is that penalties and interest? And that's the penalty?
Yeah, that's just penalty and interest. It's,
So we're 3 days late on that, and we have that's a hefty sum.
it's a
Yeah.
valuable property, so it's,
Yeah.
So why was this different than the other properties that were through escrow? Was there any additional
yeah, just penalty.
explanation?
Well, he claims that all the other properties are paid through escrow.
Right, so
And
why was this
so-
one different?
Well,
Own it?
because he chose not to pay it through escrow. Maybe he did, maybe they don't have a mortgage on this property,
Okay,
and so it's his responsibility to pay it.
right.
Is this the first year that it's not been paid through escrow?
He
Or
didn't
is this-
say, I don't think. Yeah, I don't have that information.
For me, I think that information is important.
Yeah.
If this is the first time, that it has not been paid through escrow, okay?
Do you want to stay? Do you want to? Do you want him to go or stay? He's.
You can go get it. We'll move to the next one. How about we put a hold on that one? Is that okay, Commissioner?
Sure, yes,
We'll hold that one for now.
yes.
The next one, they were paid on time without knowledge of additional assessment that had been added after BOE decision.
Jane Smith, I can't remember what property that was.
Yeah, I think they had an additional assessment, and so they were late on their additional assessment, and we recommended approving their request.
I can concur with that.
When was,
Okay with that?
when was the Board of Equalization held for that one?
Well, I know it was after the printing of the tax notice. So they got their tax notice. I think they paid that amount. Then there was an additional assessment. And they didn't get that payment in on time. But
Was there a window of 45 days or something like that given for them to pay the additional? So if this was after the normal filing, that's what I'm curious about.
It was after,
The data
it was
request
after
is
according to the statement, it was received in October,
what was received in October?
the additional assessment. So,
so why the 1,500 penalty?
well, because they didn't pay it on time.
It was,
But
I thought it was supposed to be due by the 30th of November, a month later. If the assessment was in October,
yeah, so they received an additional assessment in October on top of their regular assessment.
right?
So they paid the regular assessment, but the amount of the increase, they just found out about that in October. So yeah, technically, they might have technically had enough time to do it, but between juggling the two, our recommendation is to grant their request.
Yeah,
and to-
I'm inclined to go with your recommendation to approve that one.
Okay. I'm there too. Back to the first one.
you can tell it's not as-
So we going back to the other one?
If you'd like, we could go back to the Peak Joaquin Holdings request. Mr. McConnell informs that they've not been in escrow for at least the last 6 years. So they've been
Okay.
responsible for the payment for the last 6 years.
And they paid it, so,
Well,
That-
I guess they, looks like they might have been late in 2019 as well, right?
Let's do you.
So they paid the late penalty in 19, then they were late again in 20.
I think that's deny for me.
Yeah, I'll deny that one.
Okay, flipping the page, the one that I have anyway. The Terra Basin is the one that I have next. This is the one that alleges the office manager was out of office due to possible COVID-19 tests, and the tax and penalties were paid immediately upon her return on the 1st. And this one is, there's multiple on this one. Let's see, there's one,
There's 3.
2, 3, yep. The next 3, is there a 4th one on this?
What was the 4th one this time?
There is another one, I don't know if it's the same. Oh, yeah, there is 4.
Okay, Terra Venture is the same.
And
The payment has to be postmarked the 30th of November, but it's due the 1st of December, right?
It's due November 30th.
November 30th.
Or postmarked November 30th.
So due, okay. I mean, I see, I'm sorry, yes, I see the notes.
I know what it's like to run a business and have that key person out at times,
Yeah.
but it's a tricky one.
I'm inclined to approve if there's, especially if there's no been history with this. Terra Basin has 3 of these, and Terra Venture Holdings, I wonder if they're related.
Yeah, of course, just a comment that, of course, they could have paid it November 1st before she was out with COVID, but
True.
I write my checks so when they're due. Not as early as unless there's an interest rate that I can avoid, but yeah. I'm inclined to approve those 4 requests.
Okay, I'm the same. I'll put that down there for all 4 of those. There's the Landon Williams. Alleges misunderstood due date because last year's due date was in December. Further, family had been quarantined due to possible COVID-19 exposure.
I think we all understand, yeah, so last year, the 30th fell on a weekend, and so they were allowed to pay on December 1st. But this year, December 30th was
It's a Monday.
not a weekend, and so the December 1st date is late, but. And of course, all of the notices that went out from the county were clear that November 30th was the deadline.
So they got lucky last year.
Got lucky last year.
I'm inclined to deny that request.
Okay, I concur with that. And then this Benjamin and Aubrey alleges that they did not receive the tax notice. Tax and penalties paid as soon as they were aware. We usually have records of that when they were sent, if they ever came back. And then past history of if we sent them and they were received.
And no return. Yeah, just verified that we didn't get any return mail, that the tax notice, the valuation notice, the tax notice, and the delinquent notice all went to the same address. No, and none of it was returned to the county.
Okay,
And we know they live there then, okay.
they paid in the past.
Motion that we deny that request.
I agree. All right, we're getting there. There's like 3 or 4 more. Okay, Matthew Carter, this one says requesting abatement and refund of rollback tax assessment.
You might
It's been
recall,
BOE.
you might recall he was at the BOE.
Yep.
Um,
I don't remember all the circumstances on this one, though. So,
My memory serves, he was on Greenbelt, and then I think they extended out their resident footprint. Let me just see what,
Is this the one with the large backyard that they're using the clippings as part of the feed?
well, this is the one who, his letter's lengthy, but I think the substance is that he's been, that the county has sort of checked his property multiple times, and we've, according to him, we've sort of allowed him to stay on Greenbelt with his backyard the way it is for multiple years. And so felt like for that reason, we should waive the rollback.
Did we create a legal action by allowing that to happen in the past? In some states, you can assume public land if you use it for 7 years, and you can rightly claim it as your own. Did we do something similar by allowing that to happen?
No. No, that would be, those aren't really relatable. But, you know, in his mind, he feels like he was allowed to be on Greenbelt with his backyard the way it is. Of course, you know, the county's in charge of monitoring a lot of Greenbelt parcels, and, you know, it's our duty to roll them back whenever they don't qualify, whenever we notice they don't qualify. So, yeah. Perhaps if you could show that we were aware and that we knew of the circumstances and that we approved it at one point, maybe then you have a little bit of a better argument. Still, probably not overall, but
in your recommendation here is to abate any applicable interest accrued
oh yes,
during the time of coming to a conclusion and a decision.
well, one of his complaints also is that he was prepared to address this at that was it the December BOE
Yeah.
that it was either December or November, I can't remember which one. And it just never happened. We couldn't sit a quorum. I think you were out of town, Commissioner Lee, and I think Commissioner Ainge was on the line, and Commissioner Ivey never appeared, and so we, you know, he sat around for a couple of hours, and it put him out a month, I guess. And so, to the extent that, you know, this issue could have been resolved earlier, for that 1 month, my recommendation is basically the interest that was accrued due to that delay, which would be like 30 days worth of interest. You know, that wasn't his fault that we got delayed on that. I could get behind that, but
And I can agree with that part, but not the rolling back of the Greenbelt status or the tax. So just the part that you talked about in the sense of that delay with the interest and penalties, or however much that is accrued to. I can agree with that.
So move to deny with the caveat of rolling back for the amount of time delayed to resolve this issue, which is 30, 45 days. Less
well,
interest.
you could just approve the language in the letter if that's what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay? You okay with that, Commissioner?
And yes. So deny with that condition.
Okay, and then garage office. This is requesting refund to late penalty paid. That's all it says. I'm inclined to deny that one.
Yeah, now you'll
Yes.
notice that this is a personal property account. It's not a real property account. This one and the next one are personal property. And they moved one business was closed, another one was opened, and they moved the property from one to the other. Our position on that is that you still have to pay your personal property taxes. It follows that property.
Yeah.
And the Ingersoll, I guess, is disputing the equipment list.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. Are you okay with the deny on the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
on
the
the
garage
Ingers-
office one.
Yep.
we
The
deny that.
Ingersoll, I believe the threshold on that, is it now 15,000? Because I know he wants to offer a list that's different, so I'm assuming that he was probably assessed.
Yes, he was assessed.
So he wants to come back. Do we have an idea what we think the equipment list includes?
Yeah, there's no dollar amount on this one.
Yeah.
Well, if he didn't fill out a property affidavit, then we would have estimated, right? Have to
Which is
get-
the proper way to do it.
Which is the proper way to
It's
do
the
it.
proper way to do it, and then, but,
He would have been estimated, right?
so the confusion part to me is requesting opportunity to provide updated affidavit. But there's no dollar amount in, I mean, I don't even know what we take an action on. He brings in an updated affidavit? Sure, bring it in, I guess. I don't know, but I don't know where we have any action on this item.
Yeah, the difficult part is, that's a good point. Really, I don't think the Board of Commissioners can accept a late affidavit. You could you could approve an abatement.
Right,
There's a difference there, right? What he should do is, go to the BOE to try to have some procedure about estimated value or the valuation of the property. That door's probably closed at this point, I'm guessing, right? He's missed the deadline to appeal, especially if you've been estimated. But I don't think we have, as to Commissioner Sakovich's question, I don't think we have an idea of his value, right? We don't know what he would say his property values were.
Paulette Stetzer with the assessor's office, and I actually supervise the personal property portion of the assessor's office. In the event a filing is not received, especially if a business has changed ownership, we delete the equipment list. So it is up to the owner to declare the equipment they're using. If they do not, or do not file, an estimation is placed on similar and like businesses within Utah County.
Okay.
So that is where this fell. So an estimation was placed, and it could be very well that it's very low, on the low end. But they also have the opportunity the following year to correct that. But if not, the estimation stands as it is, so he would be responsible for the estimation. This year, he could file the equipment list, estimation comes off, and then it's based solely off of the equipment that they are providing.
Okay.
So on a procedural basis, Paul, I don't know what to do with this one. What if we just take no action? Because deny,
Yeah, I think your options would be to follow the recommendation letter unless you wanted to abate some of his property taxes.
And just deny the request with the finding that there's no legal or factual basis shown to grant the request.
Yeah.
I am considering denying this request.
Okay. I am too. The last one then is Jared here. He's requesting relief on taxes paid. That's it. And that's all the explanation we basically have there.
Okay, so Mr. Lundahl, he was, his property was taxed as a secondary residence for a number of years. He claims that he appealed that in 2015, but I don't know if it was an actual appeal or if it was one of these green folder appeals, but he's basically requesting that the difference between the secondary residential and the primary residential be refunded him since 2015.
Paul, this is Jim from the County Assessor's Office. Mr. Lundahl purchased that home in 2008, I believe. It was a secondary residence for the previous owner, and so it remained secondary on our records until 2015 when he made an application to change that to a primary residence. It was approved in a regular Board of Equalization, and it has been taxed as a primary each year since 2015. So what he is asking is for previous years prior to when it was approved to be made a primary residence.
So he's asking for between 2008 and 2015. He wanted that, the primary residence taxation to it.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Jim. Yeah, he's looking for the years from 08 to 15
And I would,
to be refunded.
yeah.
But he filed the application for, I mean, he bought it with the secondary residence as,
All of the documentation that was provided on his application was 2015 at the time. There was no request or action taken on previous years.
okay.
Yeah, so this request is 6 years old. 6 years old at the newest, right? It's going from, 6 years old to 11 or 12 years old. So it's,
What's the statutory limitations on the property taxation reviews?
in my opinion, he's well outside the bounds of making a legal claim against the county for that.
Some things are 7 years, some things are 3 years. And
Yeah,
what
no,
does
I
it-
think 4 years at the most on this kind of an issue, so, certainly I don't think he has a claim against the county. But having said that, the commissioners have, flexibility here. Our recommendation would be to deny it, partially because it is so dated.
So he failed to update the status of his property for the previous 2008 to 2014.
Right, yeah, between 08 and 2015, he had, every year he could have appealed that, between 08 and 15, and he never did. And then, until 2015, when he did appeal that, he was granted the primary residence status, and he's been granted that ever since. But even in 2015, he didn't request
The previous years.
refund of previous years, which we would have recommended a denial on that as well, because every year you get that tax notice, you ought to review it and make sure it's accurate.
I'm inclined to deny.
Who's Jared Lundahl? Who is this his primary residence? How long has he had? He's had it now since 2008, secondary.
That's right, Commissioner. He
Yeah,
bought the home in 08.
okay. I'll move to deny that one.
Okay, that brings us to the end of that long process. Thanks for your patience on that, Paul, and working through it with us.
Like we're just warming up.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna, do you think that, so the motion will probably need to encapsulate that, there has been changes and there'll be, and I hopefully, I've taken notes. Alice, do you have the notes so that it can be appropriately noted for the changes? Okay. So we'll need a motion then to,
Make a motion that we approve the findings of item number 6, the separate individual findings of item number 6.
okay, I've got a motion, and I'm gonna try to rephrase that, hopefully, to approve the
Please.
tax actions, including the recommendations with the notated changes that were made during our discussion.
Concur.
Okay, and I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 2-0. All right, Commissioner, number 15. Number 15 is to approve and authorize the signing of a resolution authorizing the signing of an interlocal cooperative agreement between Utah County and the City of Saratoga Springs for the project known as Foothill Boulevard Extension.
Commissioners, this is Rob Moore,
Sure.
County Attorney's Office. Any questions that you have about this agreement, potential agreement? I think Richard Nielsen's also there and can address this.
Yep, Commissioner
I'm here.
Sakovic has
Because
got some
that's how-
questions.
I just want
Great,
to
thank you.
clarify the location and the impact of this project. It looks like it's been ongoing. It's been previously approved. This is a continuation of the same.
This particular project is one that was approved through the MAG process. It was on the list that the commission approved last fall. It's actually funded in 2024. This would be one that would extend the road known as Foothill Boulevard out in Saratoga Springs. I think here it gives some endpoints on here, and I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think where did it say it? Much paperwork here, Rob. I just need a simple one page. I know the southern terminus is Lariat Boulevard, Lariat Drive, something like that.
Yeah, it's Pony Express Parkway and
Pony Express.
Lariat
So
Lariat
this
Boulevard.
would be just west of the Westlake High School. If you're familiar with where that is, a little bit west of Redwood Road, with where the new LDS Temple's being built, it would go just to the west of that site and wrap around to Lariat. That's about a mile south of where the temple site is, roughly. The reason why this is on for approval now is the city is starting into design work. They wanted to get the agreement in place to assure that they had the funding reimbursement capabilities when that funding comes available in 2024, as they're starting to expend funds now for that design work. So we won't actually have any money going out from the county until 24.
Okay.
That's when it's slated on the MAG spreadsheet that was approved by the commission last fall. So.
Okay. How much, do we have money set aside from our road tax?
Yes, this is all part of that road tax that's allocated through the MAG process. Yep, so
Okay.
it is all appropriated there, so.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I would just want to get that clear. Thank you.
All
Make a
right.
motion to approve item number 15.
And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes 2-0. All right. That is
Is that it?
that's the end of our
Open?
normal discussions. Now we've got a work session item, CJC funding update. Come on up, Becca.
Right. Well, thank you both and everybody here for letting us take some time today and update you guys on what is happening with the Children's Justice Center. So we have really two main highlights we want to talk about today. The first is I'm going to give a general overview just for people joining in the public of what we do if they're not familiar. And then we want to talk about our North County Center, and then also the Victims of Crime Act, federal grant cuts and impact. And I just want to note from the beginning that these VOCA cuts will not only be affecting the Children's Justice Center, but it will also be affecting the victim advocates and victim programs in the Sheriff's Office as well as the County Attorney's Office. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we are located just a couple blocks south of here. That's our house on the left. And then we now, as of June of last year, have a second location in American Fork. So we now have 2 Children's Justice Centers in Utah County. This home, we'll get into the purchase of everything later, but we are not in it yet. We still have to renovate it. So right now we're in a temporary commercial space in American Fork. So the Children's Justice Center is a home-like facility where professionals from law enforcement, Division of Child and Family Services, prosecution, mental health, medical services, and victim advocacy all come together to work on child abuse cases. It's a safe place for kids to talk about what's something very difficult that's happened to them and to reveal the truth about what's happened to them. So just some pictures of our building. So to give you an idea of the children we're serving in our community, in 2019, we saw just under 1,000 children come through our center. And then in 2020, we saw just under 900. Some of that I think was due to COVID. Some of that was also due to some statutory changes on the state level that have now been fixed this last session. So we anticipate that our numbers are unfortunately going to go back up and probably exceed what we've been seeing. And 75, to 77% of what we see is child sexual abuse. So the Children's Justice Centers are set up under state statute. There's a statute there. And we are intended to be under local county governments with 4 different sources of funding. And that includes federal grant money, local government money, private donations, and then the state appropriations that we get. This is just kind of an overview of what that funding breakdown looks like for us. So you can see about 34% of our funding comes from the state, 40% comes from federal, 18% comes from local or Utah County government, and then 8% comes from private. And we also have a lot of community support with private donations, volunteers in our community, and then in-kind donations with comfort items, snacks for kids, that kind of thing. So I want to give a kudos here to Utah County government for the support of the Children's Justice Center. Funding at 18% is actually the best in the state, just so you guys know. I do want to point out that federal or those VOCA funds do make up a large portion of our budget. So as these cuts are coming, it is going to really affect us.
In rough numbers, would you back that slide up again?
Mm-hmm.
In rough numbers, VOCA is right now 837, almost 838.
And that's with the first year 10% cut that we'll be getting. So
That includes.
we've already,
you've already
taken
subtracted
out
out.
about just under $100,000 from that.
And you're going to expect how much reductions in the next couple of years?
25% total in the next,
Another 25%.
so 25% total. So we'll
Okay.
get 10% cut this year and then 15% next year.
Okay.
And I'll go into those details in just a little bit.
Hi, I'm Heather Allen. I am the Associate Director, and I am over the location that's in North County in American Fork. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the building that we have purchased there. It is located at 96 South 100 East. It is right next to the library, which is one of the many reasons why we chose this location. It made it really easy to rezone the property. Parking is situated well. It's on a corner lot, right there, right next to the community infrastructure of the library and other community organizations there. It is we believe that the building was built in 1871, somewhere around there. And then there was an addition that was added in the 90s. We did purchase this building at the end of last year and have since, started the process of renovations. If you've ever renovated your home, you know that it can kind of be, quite the process of getting to the point of completing the project. So we have met with our contractor and architect. They've created some designs that I'm about to go over, and we are about ready to submit our permits and then hopefully begin that construction and renovation. So I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like. So you'll see the before and after of the 3 floors that we'll be renovating. So we have the basement level here, which was previously a bedroom and kind of a family room. And we will be converting that into our medical exam space. So we'll have a medical exam room, the restroom there, that's all the ADA accessible, and a space for our nurse practitioners. There will also be an elevator that will be installed, again, so that everything is ADA compliant, and the staircase will be moved. That extra large space you see there is kind of like a cellar space that won't be used. On the main floor, so at the bottom of the screen, that's the front of the building. You see the stairs there. And we'll create some office space, again, everything ADA accessible, restrooms. We'll leave the kitchen intact because, again, we want to create a home-like environment. We want kids and families to feel welcome when they come in. And so we wanted that space so that kids could have snacks and sit around the island and feel comfortable. We'll have 2 conference rooms, and again, the elevator there. And the conference rooms are used to meet with the families prior to the child's interview. Then on the upstairs level, we will be converting the bedrooms into office space. And then on top of the addition, which is where the family room was before and will now be the conference rooms, we will be adding that second level, and we'll be placing the 2 interview rooms there as well as the observation rooms. So that will be a big part of the project. So we used CARES and CDBG funding to purchase the home, and quickly Rebecca and I started searching out other funding sources, grants, donations, for the renovation. We knew it would be a big project. Again, it's an older home and we need to make it compliant. So we're looking at things like plumbing, electrical, all of that needs to be up to code. The addition, the elevator, there's a lot of things that need to be done to the home to make it compliant with everything, the ADA, adding a ramp, all of that. So we have been able to secure just over $500,000, but we are looking at roughly $1.2 million overall for the renovation cost. And so we are still trying to get $600,000. Rebecca and I are also looking at some other grants at the moment. We'll be placing a grant request with the Eccles Foundation for $300,000 and the Sunderland Foundation for $200,000, which means we'll need about $100,000 more. We're hoping that the community will help us with that. We will be starting a campaign this next month. And in case you didn't know, April's Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so we thought that might be a good time to reach out to our community and do this campaign. It's going to be the 100 campaign, and asking 100 people or community members to raise $1,000 each. And if we're able to do that by the end of the year, then we'll be able to reach our goal. We're also hoping the community can help with in-kind donations. We're going to need help furnishing, decorating the center, having activity kits and toys for the children while they wait, office supplies, cleaning supplies, all of that. So if people are able to assist, they can email cjc@utahcounty.gov. or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Utah County CJC. I also just want to give a shout out to American Fork City. The city, the mayor, Mayor Frost, and the American Fork Chamber of Commerce have been so great to us. They've been very welcoming and helpful and have reached out many times about how they can help. They helped us with rezoning. It's been a really great experience being in that community. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. So now getting into these VOCA cuts. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of put up here just where those funds come from. So these are not taxpayer dollars. These are federal revenues that are deposited. They're restitution paid by people who or companies who commit federal crimes. And those are listed there, what kind of crimes would qualify for this restitution and for these funds. So the big problem that we're having is that unfortunately, you know, there's already been a 25% cut. There's now another 40% cut proposed. So there is a bill right now that could fix this cut. And I will get into who and what people can contact about that. But just to give you an idea of what VOCA funds at our center, so it funds our Spanish-speaking programs, our Spanish-speaking advocacy, our Family Justice Center program, our mentor program, all of our group and individual therapy, that's all trauma and evidence-based practice, part of our forensic interview specialists, our care process model, trauma and suicide screenings, emergency funds for victims, specialized training and interpretive services, including ASL. So it funds a lot of programs where we're able to provide these direct services to victims in the community. So again, this impact year one, we have to go through a 10% cut, so that's just under $100,000. With that, we're gonna unfortunately have to eliminate one of our positions, and that's gonna be the care process model administrator. So where we are no longer gonna have that, you know, we are concerned because this person is doing trauma and suicide screening with kids, and what we've seen at our center is about 40% of the kids who come in are at some kind of suicide risk, unfortunately. And so for us to be able to identify that right away and get them linked with community resources like Wasatch Mental Health and get them into therapy right away and support the whole family, we feel like is very important. So my staff is amazing. Everyone has really jumped in and, you know, is willing to be cross-trained. It's a temporary fix. We're hoping at some point this funding will get restored and we can hire that person back on.
I take it the reduction is going to be a permanent reduction, at least foreseeable future,
Right.
not a temporary, and then it comes back later on. Okay.
Right. In year two, we will be doing have to go through a 15% cut. Oh, in year one, so this is on a fiscal year, so this is starting July of this year for us. So year two will start in July of next year. So we'll be having to cut $125,000, which will eliminate our paid MSW program, and they're providing individual therapy. It'll cut all emergency funds that we have available for victims, our interpretive services, all of our supplies, all of our training funds. So you can see overall for us, that is a really big cut.
What's the reasoning? I mean, what was their reasoning?
Why they don't have as many funds going into that, and it's because deferred and non-prosecution agreements are going into like the general treasury rather than going into this crime victim fund. So the proposed bill will fix that, but as it stands right now, all of that money is going into the general treasury.
But if the proposed bill fixes that, is it coming back? Would it possibly come
Well,
back?
it depends as those crimes get, you know, prosecuted or as they come to some kind of agreement and they pay those restitutions, then those funds will come back into the victim fund. So that's what we're hoping that this bill will go through.
But it's still gonna take
But it
a
will.
year
Yeah,
at least?
yeah. Yes. I know, it's, yeah. And then I just wanted to include, you know, why screen for traumatic stress? I mean, I think we can all agree, like, screening children for suicide is pretty important. You know, we want to identify that, but also screening for traumatic stress and what that looks like. You know, so just some, you know, topics here. Kids who have difficulty sleeping or nightmares or refusing to go to school, bedwetting or other regression, anger, getting into fights, withdrawal from friends, avoiding places that remind them of the trauma, things like that. So again, really helping parents to identify what some of these behaviors are that they're seeing with their kids, and then teaching them some interventions right then when they're at the center on how to help their child calm, like belly breathing or, you know, other things like that with relaxation. So they have tools when they leave the center of how to help their children cope with what's happened to them. So what we are asking of the community is for people to get involved in this. So you can see that the bill is HR 1652, and I just got an update from our contact in the Attorney General's office this morning that it actually went to vote yesterday and then was requested as a roll call vote, so it was postponed. So as of right now, it still has not passed out of the House. It does look like it's getting a lot of support in the House. So we're also asking that, you know, everyone contact our Utah senators, and they're still looking for some co-sponsors to this. Any kind of help that people can give in, you know, offering their voice on this would be really appreciated. And as you can see, there's a link at the bottom of the slide that has a lot of information there. If people are interested, there's even an example letter in there of what they can send their representative.
Who's the sponsor of this bill? Do you know who the sponsor is?
I do not have that right in front of me.
Okay.
So yes, we would love everyone to get involved, but just know that, you know, we are still continuing our work and doing everything that we can to support, you know, child victims in our community, regardless of whatever is going on with our funding. And so I thought I'd throw in here, you know, just a few kind of feedback items from the kids who have come in. So this is from a girl aged 12. I feel safe in knowing that things will be taken care of and that I'll be protected at all times. This is from an adult who came through as a child. I still have my bear I got when I came here as a child. I keep it on my cabinet so I can look at it and remind myself how far I've come in my life. This is probably one of my all-time favorite ones. You know, and as you guys saw with the gender difference, we do have boys and girls who come to our center. So to me, I think this just speaks to how supported kids feel when they come through. And then this is from a parent. As I sat in the parking lot, willing myself to walk in, I was afraid everyone inside the building was going to validate my worst fear, that this was all my fault, that as a parent I had failed my child. I never would have guessed how much kindness and support was shared with me during my visit, put all my fears to rest. So with that, I just wanted to open it up for any questions you guys have. I know you guys have, you know, both toured our center and have been so supportive, but do you have any questions on the VOCA cuts or on our other building?
Not yet.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Come a long way since I've been in office, even
now with another building, and I sat on the board for a little while.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be done there, that's for sure. So thank you for all the work that you do, both of you, for all the work you do. It's important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, make a difference. It, the ripple goes on for a lot of generations, so thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. With that, we will go into our closed meetings. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.